Good evening. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. Well, I want to admit to one other thing. I realize my videos haven't been very good. Not much research or study put into them lately. But I'm doing sort of a chronology or sharing of my spiritual journey all the same. And as I said, this is weird. I just never been this sick before. And without, I don't know what it is. And other than my neighbor, God bless her, and the young man around the corner, who's going to drive me tomorrow to my pump refill that I have to have done. But I mentioned that I felt this afternoon I've turned the corner, but I've felt that before. But I'm praying that I'll be okay in the morning. Let's wait and see. But I haven't coughed as much today. But I will say that off and on during the day, and when I called to see if I could get in with a different doctor for a doctor eventually, spoiled as I am to even have a doctor, a GP, general practitioner here. They're hard to come by. A huge population influx. And that can also then create among people, among doctors, if they're in great demand, some people won't keep up high expectations of themselves then. Life can become easy and they take it for granted. And it can become easy money if they just want to meet. Like there was one doctor who I heard was very, very good, but he won't take patients if they have Medicare, even if they have a supplement. He doesn't want to deal with certain patients. They can be very picky, but he's good. And yesterday I tried to get him because I wanted to keep patience. I wanted to keep just full trust in God. But yet, I wanted to feel better. It's got to that point that it was getting hard. The suffering was getting hard. And I'm feeling, my neighbor, she's great. She has a husband. And I think he's giving her a little bit of grief. I just sense that. And she's older than me. She's working so hard and then leaving things on the porch for me to eat and encouraging me, to keep going. We know it's best. I try to stay out of the hospital because that'll just lead to even more troubles for me. And I don't have, maybe they would find out what it is, but could be COVID. See, probably is at this point. RSV turned into COVID after a sinus infection, upper respiratory infection. So it just keeps going not in the right direction. And I'm not out of I don't know. I keep thinking I've turned the corner, but this time I think I have. But today, off and on. In fact, when I called about, trying to get in with this other doctor eventually, get a different doctor, I don't want to go back to the one that I've nicknamed Dr. Duffer. He's a duffer. And it's not nice to say, but that's what it's ended up. He hasn't been on top of it or proactive. And especially when he denied me just calling in a medication to put in a nebulizer my neighbor had. She spent a lot of time digging around in her attic or something to find it, bring it over, leave it on the porch, and that would have helped. Breathing treatments would have helped me a great deal and would have avoided the added pain on my spine for hours and hours of hard coughing. I think it was yesterday I didn't do any video. I was so close to calling EMS then, trying to catch my breath. For all the coughing, I couldn't get my breath a few times. It was, a little bit unnerving to say the least. But I resisted because I thought if I could just hang on here, even for the dogs, they don't have to be more expense. Find such, probably ask my neighbor to take them to the kennel to be kept there. And they know I'm not well. They've been upset. They're trying their best to be very, very good. They've been amazingly good being cooped up in here with me. But I kept repeating off and on today the words unnecessary suffering. And thinking, this has been unnecessary. And I mentioned it to the young woman at the, when I called the doctor's office. See, do you have any other doctors who are taking patients? Like to get in to see somebody else. I didn't say see somebody else at first, but they figured it out. And then I complained. And I said, seemed incompetent. And what really upset me was when I wasn't given simple medication that I could have used in this nebulizer that was lent me that would have alleviated a lot of my lung problems, or at least helped. It would have been a help to all the coughing, healing even. Or when I called and asked for cough medicine, he sent pills that aren't to be taken if you're on opioids. So, and I read about them, they're rated low as far as effectiveness. Mucinex is better even rated. But I had mentioned something also that would soothe my raw throat. At the time, my throat was on fire for a while, for a few days. But no, he wouldn't. So unnecessary suffering. I would say that and told myself that. And on one hand, it's true. But today when I said it to the woman, I said, I've had unnecessary suffering with my spine now in higher pain because of the coughing, because I wasn't given something to help the cough that would help it, that I could take and help my throat. But God let me know unnecessary suffering. What did Jesus do all the time? What was his suffering? It was all unnecessary. Yet he suffered it. So I did indeed shut up on the unnecessary suffering, complaining and commenting, even to myself, because that's what Jesus did, always. Every suffering he had was unnecessary, caused by people. Caused by people, caused by my sins, collaboratively. The whole body of sin, of humanity, caused by specific sins of people in the time period he was on earth, the suffering he has now continues. He isn't feeling all happy and great when we sin. He knows. He sees things such as countries where their leaders are corrupt, or people are breaking down morality, sexual sins, waste of money, of taxpayer money, on absurd programs, and a lot of it was even, they couldn't even find what had happened to the money. Millions of dollars lost of our taxes that we pay, our sacrifices, the hard work people put in and pay taxes on their wages then. So Jesus has done nothing but unnecessary suffering. So that's given me something to ponder, of just, who do I think I am? In the one sense. Now, yes, I do think it's right that we advocate for ourselves when we don't have someone else. I think at the ER, a little over a week ago, I had an adult there with me, and impressing upon the ER doctor, but he seemed very serious and very, he was concerned, but he, for whatever reason, didn't do the usual tests that are routine to clear someone. Do they have this, and this? COVID especially. And I was so out of it then, I didn't even think about any of it. I was coughing so badly. I thought they would admit me and give me some oxygen or something, but they said my oxygen was fine. But I could tell, at least I know now what low oxygen is like, how disoriented you become. You can't think straight, can't think really well at all. It's like being in another dimension of some sort. Everything was very, very strange. And I felt all the time as if I were going to faint. And that feeling was when I was in bed also. My neighbor texted, sit up and take your oxygen. She had told me a week ago to get one of these little oxygen things that you put your finger in, and it's battery operated, and it reads your oxygen level. She said, get one of those, have it on hand, because of all the coughing I was doing. Because she's been through things, so she knows. But and I think she has five adult children. And her husband has health problems too, so she says we keep one around for him. But even sitting up, it went down to like 82 then. Sitting up, walking around, it was 80 to 89, so which is terrible. But I didn't walk much. I used the cane, I thought, well, I'm gonna try. Got out to the kitchen. The dogs wanted some food to take them out. I had to get right back in. I had to lean over. I thought I was going to keel over. So I lost all energy. Talk about that Hebrews verse, weak need. Feeling like your knees and your feet are just going to go right out from under you. But But granted, I mean, I've had things in life just weird. I had a miscarriage, and instead of just a regular miscarriage, it became life-threatening. Um, I kept having pain, terrible pain, and a neighbor told my husband to take me to the hospital. He didn't care. It was terrible. I saw in that situation his lack of compassion. Sociopaths lack compassion. But I didn't know anything about sociopaths then. Not until later, not until after I was working on my doctorate in clinical psychology. But um, anyway, they decided to operate that night because I was having so much bleeding to get the bleeding to stop. But evidently during surgery, they had a crisis situation with me. And I was told later that I nearly died. I wondered because my husband, when I came out of anesthetic, there was the neighbor we lived near. They were friends of mine anyway. The woman was, and her husband. They were there, and she had been crying. I thought, well, what's going on? And then later, I was told that I had a very close call, nearly bled out. They couldn't get the bleeding to stop, or something had happened during that DNC, they call it. Um, but they sent me home. But I had vomited the medication they'd given me. And so that was bad. So then I passed out at home, off the toilet, head first into the shower, and broke my nose. So it's crooked, but that doesn't matter. But anyway, when I was younger, it didn't look as much. I noticed in these things my nose is crooked. But, just, it's like with me, these things happen, but then I had that official death experience with the back surgery in 1987. That would have been just 6 years later. So, it's 81 when I lost what would have been our third child. But I do have it's always something with me that's different or more extreme. And I have noticed that in my life, which helps me understand the victim soul more. And also partly why I then get this thing of God's will, just letting God work it all out. But today I took action, and we'll try a different doctor when I'm better and see how that goes. And I'll talk to him about being proactive and make sure he's aware and ask him to look up these things that I've got, the arachnoiditis and my blood tests, my blood issues, Waldenstrom's, and different things that I could have that are latent now, but could go into full force any time. That's what I sort of thought was happening. Why I'm not getting over this so well is that, my blood maybe is weak right now, but no, this whole thing of unnecessary suffering. No, Jesus suffered unnecessarily. And so I'm going to focus on Jesus and what he suffered and how unnecessary from our human perspective. And I think indeed, truly, unnecessary suffering for Jesus. But he did suffer it for us. He suffered. He suffered unto blood, like Hebrews says. He suffered unto blood. Well, that says he did not suffer yet unto blood. But in Scripture and in reality, we can suffer pretty far with things without realizing, without paying too much attention. And I think it's sort of good not to get too wrapped up in our sufferings, not to get too caught up in it. Do our due diligence, do what we can to stay healthy, or if ill, then to get better and to push through, to push forward. And then from there, see where God leads us with it. But I've got a lot to learn yet as a victim soul. I recognize that. And my complaining of, that Jesus' suffering and my unnecessary suffering, that I had suffered unnecessarily with the back pain from all that coughing. Could have had something to help the cough better. And with not being given the help with the nebulizer, the medicine for nebulizer, and then way back, not being given the Medrol dose pack at the 3-week mark when I asked for it. Because I had the Medrol dose pack before, and it would kick out the sinus thing that I would have at the time. That's what worked 3 years ago. Got it right out. But no. It isn't unnecessary suffering for a victim soul. It's interesting to face that. It's not unnecessary. And Jesus did not suffer unnecessarily. It seems it. It seems it. In a way he did. Obviously he did. He's God. He's perfect. He shouldn't have had to have suffered as he did because of us, our sins. But I hope I always remember from here on out, because the suffering will happen again unless I die suddenly. But otherwise I have a road of suffering ahead of me. Most all of us do. And we'll get better and have to suffer again over and over and over until our time to die comes, till Jesus comes for us and takes us with him. But I'm praying and trying to instill in my mind that it is not unnecessary. I will unite myself with Christ in that aspect also. He suffered unnecessarily due to our sinful nature. And it's nothing more than what I ought to do with him. And in his honor is when suffering comes and it's unnecessary, to suffer it, then to suffer it. Suffer unnecessarily in honor and remembrance of Christ's unnecessary suffering. That's my little add-on message that maybe has more sense and worth than my long, meandering, yapping one. Who knows but God? God bless his real presence in us, and much love to all of you. Keep up my prayers for you, and I've got much suffering yet to do. As I said, I sort of got this one, so I didn't blow it, but I could have kept going in a better mode. I broke the momentum, and because I'm very human and have a lot to learn yet in being a victim soul. So, and it's okay. It's a good thing we keep trying.